So yeah, like Vicky said, my presentation is going to cover a brief winter GFE review here. Not too many slides, but there'll definitely be some time at the end for some questions if people have any or comments. So much of the presentation is going to revolve around our ILM winter weather procedure, pretty much what we had in place last year as well. And the main benefit of using a procedure like this is it allows you to do the entire winter grid process in one simple GUI. In the past, if we had to do top down or partial thickness steps, you had to choose your model or models or time ranges, and it could even take up to 15 minutes just to do 12 to 24 hours of top down grids because a lot goes into them and they definitely take a long time to run. So this definitely simplifies things and makes it more efficient. The other benefit of the procedure is allows you to view output for several different guidance sources. We have the NBM P-type method, also top-down partial thickness methods. You can use the GFS, NAM, European, or equal blend of all those sources. And then there's also output from some ice and snowmelt tools that I'll talk about shortly. In addition, we have hourly crons set up to compute all these items. So you can come in on your shift. Say you have an M shift and you want to look out in the extended, you can simply look in the winter weather element group and know right away the level of uncertainty or the timing with potential winter weather. And knowing the uncertainty can definitely help with briefings as well. Finally, the output is consistent with and also based off your forecast grids, which is obviously critical. So just an update for this procedure, a few things here for 2021, the winter this season. Biggest thing was code cleanup now. A lot of things were consolidated and streamlined, so the procedure should run a lot faster, and maintenance in the future should be easier as well because there's fewer files we're dealing with. There's also now a selected time range option in step one. So that'll allow for a quicker procedure time if you're just targeting maybe a 24-hour period and don't need to run the procedure over the whole entire 8 days. Also, if the other person isn't done with their grids yet, you could simply just look at your portion as well. So there's a lot of benefits to having a selected time option there. And now it also includes the NBMP type option. We have guidance from the NBM like probability of snow, ice, or sleet as well. And that's what you would get with the forecast builder POUT option too. So that's an 8th guidance source we have. So the basic workflow is the same as before. Obviously, you always want to finish off your base grids like T, TD, and POP. And then QPF would be important as well if you're looking for potential snow or ice accumulations. Then in the winter weather element group, we'll have 8 winter weather elements below weather. Again, these are updated on a cron every hour. And also, if you have snow, sleet, or freezing rain, the ILM CWA, you'll get output for those grids as well. And then going on to the next step here, it's just running that procedure simply under the populate menu and following the steps that it shows. So again, this can be run anytime on shift by any person. You can run it multiple times if you want. And the only reason you have to run this manually is because you might have updated those grids up there in step one since the last time the crons ran. So you want to incorporate your latest forecast grids and get more accurate winter weather output. So looking at the steps here, take it one at a time. Step one, again, you run it after updating your base grids. It kind of goes through what I talked about before, how to update the 8 model weather grids if they show any winter weather forecasted, meaning sleet, freezing rain, or snow over the ILM CWA. And then there's that new option. You can either run over the selected time. If you're doing a 24-hour targeted time range, it takes about 30 seconds. And then it takes a couple minutes if you want to run it over the entire forecast database. You'll get a banner when step one is done, and that'll give you a heads up to go on to step two. You don't have to unclick anything in step one. It's just a radio button there to choose either or. But when you go down to step two, you're going to choose your time range and then which grids you want to copy directly in your weather grid. So you could do a top-down NBMP type or a partial thickness method, depending on what you want to utilize. And that'll load directly into your weather grids. You can also choose the intensity and the character if you want S or SW for showery. And finally there at step 3, it's not really a step of the procedure, but it's just to give you a heads up on how to get those grids into the forecast database. And obviously you wouldn't be dealing with that if you're in the extended anyway, because we don't do snow and ice accum grids beyond 84 hours. So it kind of went through all three of those things. This is the winter weather element group. It shows pop and weather at the top, and there's 8 guidance grids below. And in this case, it's showing that we're only expecting winter weather from the NBMP type, and then 3 of the partial thickness methods. And you can take a look at those grids to see which ones you might want to utilize. If, say, WPC is throwing out the NAM and favors the GFS, I could give you a heads up that maybe the GFS might be worthwhile utilizing. And these are only ones available in the extended or the NBMP type, and then the partial thickness methods with the blend, European, and GFS. So we really didn't have many case studies to take a look on this, but fortunately, there's a presentation on this on the Google Sites page, but we had a case on February 21st, winter event P-type verification. Fortunately, I was on an evening shift, so I was able to take images of 12-hour forecasts of weather grids. And this was the total percent of OBS with the correct P-type forecasted. And you can see here that a top-down blend got 92% of the OBS right, partial thickness at 84%, and the forecast builder NBM output got 76%. Again, this is just one event, so there might be instances where the reverse is true, but really we don't have a lot to work with overall. There are benefits of using the NBM since it incorporates a lot of ensemble guidance sources as opposed to our blend sources, which is just deterministic guidance. But at the same time, there's also advantages of using the top-down blend and the partial thickness in that we are incorporating the latest guidance sources, and a lot of times the NBM data is outdated despite it using more ensemble members. So there's pros and cons of using both. But the idea here is a proof of concept and showing, at least in this one event, it was worthwhile utilizing. In terms of threat grids and winter weather, everyone's used to using threat grids for other things like marine weather. We do have a snow threat and ice threat grid. And you can run these via either the grid check or threat grids populate procedure at any time, as with all the other threat grids. And these serve as hazard decision aids to help look out time and just to help determine the potential severity and timing of various weather hazards. And the grids in this case are created only if there's criteria met over at least one CWA grid point, making it easy right away to see if that hazard criteria is met for anything. And in this case, we're going to use storm total snow and storm total ice because the snow duration might last more than 6 or 12 hours. So we can't just look at the 6-hourly snow amount grids. You got to look at storm total here. In this one case below in the bottom right, just a made-up case, shows that we have warning criteria overall of South Carolina, and then advisory criteria just over parts of Columbus County. And corresponding to that, you can see a ice threat and snow threat grid created in the bottom left. And as you'd expect, most of the winter season, we're not going to be seeing grids for these things. You'll probably see it empty in the public element group. But if we do meet criteria, we'll get some grids popping up for that, just to give you a heads up notice there. So a general summary here, again, the ILM winter weather procedure allows you to do the entire winter grid process from one GUI. The winter weather element group is definitely something to take advantage of as well, because you can easily view output from all various different guidance sources, and also some ice and snow amount to output as well. Since hourly crons are set up for these items, you can come in right away and know if we're expecting winter weather, or if it's possible, that is really, regardless of what shift you're working. Also allows you to judge the timing of the winter event, also the level of uncertainty based on how many different sources are predicting weather. I also want to mention too, I know some folks might prefer the previous legacy methodology of doing the top-down steps one at a time, or the partial thickness to view the output. And I have maintained all those procedures. I made sure they're Python 3 compatible, and I've also streamlined the code for that as well. And those are found at the bottom of the edit menu. And that will also work and serve as backup as well for other offices, assuming we have data for the NAM 12 and the GFS. Last slide here, just general resources. Again, our GFE Google Sites page shows our operations and data sets guide, and then also there's a section on winter weather. There's a one-page guide there that might be useful leading up to event or even the day of, because it kind of goes through a summary of what I discussed in this presentation. There's also a YouTube training video of how the ILM winter weather procedure works. It might be just a tad outdated, but I say probably at least 95% of it's still relevant. That might be worthwhile to view as well. There's also a presentation on the various top-down and partial thickness methods, and then also a couple of WPC resources as well that Vicky probably already has available anyway on the winter weather Google Sites page. So that's about it on my end. Willing to take any questions or comments.